Hey, everybody, glad to have you here. We have such a special guest this Thursday, and I'm so glad to have Carol Boston here, who's the Queen of Reframe. And I absolutely love that. And we're going to talk about what that means. But before we jump in there, let me just tell you a little bit about Carol. She's an international best-selling author. We're going to talk about her book and how you can get it. She's an award-winning speaker and a business leadership coach. Known as the Queen of Reframe, she helps you reframe any challenge so you can double or triple your income in record time. So she brings the discipline of being both a professional athlete and the savvy of 27 years of experience as a sales expert in Fortune 100 companies. So she comes from the corporate world like me. Her resume includes things like AT&T, Sprint, Paychex, all companies we've heard from. Her clients say she's relentless in supporting them to get the results that they want. I'm going to reframe that after I finish reading this bio. She helps business owners, female business owners, to learn their value, own their power, and advocate for themselves so they rise up and become the lioness leaders they were created to be. So I'm going to reframe my own personal bio from something I heard Carol say that I love. And in short, she is freaking great at getting people to take action. And I love it. Hi, Carol. Welcome to Priorities Concierge, Profit Concierge Chat, Stack and Learn.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you, Pam.
I love that description of what you do. Tell people the story you just told me about jump starting somebody from absolute standstill into action, just because I love that.
Yeah, there was two of them. I had a lady and she got on a call with me and she's been wanting to be an entrepreneur for 35 years and told me her whole story. She's
35 years.
35 years. Read all the books, been to all the conferences, done it all, and yet never could figure out what was keeping her stuck and why she wasn't in action. 90 minutes with me. Not only did we get her into action, she joined my 6-month private program. It's been incredible, leaps and bounds.
It's all about taking action.
Yes, and it is. And you'll hear me talk about this because I tell people that I believe God gave me a lamplight only for my feet, because all I need to do is take the next step. Trust in the process and take the next step, right? We don't have to see the whole picture. And oftentimes when we try to see the whole picture, it becomes overwhelming. And what do? We don't take action because it's overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah. And then I shared with you another lady on another $97 call. And like I told you, I show up as if these people had paid me $10,000, right? They get all of me. That's who I am. And I gave her homework and we set a date 2 weeks out. One of the things I teach my clients is we put things in writing, dated, stamped, including time zone. Why do I put time zone on there, Pam? I had a client about 3 years ago and I was waiting to get the homework from them. And it came in about 3 hours late and they go, oh, no, I'm at 5 p.m. Pacific time zone. I said, no, you're not. You're right here in me in Fort Lauderdale. You did not mean that.
I love that.
I learned my lesson, right? So this second lady, I gave her homework, said 2 weeks out. She said, perfect. 8 days later, not even 2 weeks. She sends me this email. It starts off, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I don't know how you do what you do. She said, but I've got 75 new people in my email list in a week. And I've signed up 2 new clients in a week. And she hadn't signed up clients in ages. So that's where I came up with it. I'm freaking good at getting people not only into action, but in the right action, in the right direction.
That should be in your bio. Forget your formal bio. It should just be, I'm freaking good at getting people into action. Because I know, and one of the things I want to ask you, because I know I've got all the great plans in the world, but I will procrastinate with the best of them. What are those things that keep us from taking action? I know you've clearly figured out how to get people past them, but what are they and what are some tips you can give us about getting past them?
One of the things is fear of success. Fear of success. People always think it's fear of failure, but it isn't. Oftentimes it's fear of success.
Tell me about that.
That's where I was going to translate that into what I say about helping women know their value and own their power.
Okay.
When you step into your success, you have to be willing to own your power, which means you're going to be visible, which means you're going to stop hiding your light under a bush, right? You're going to set your light up there so everybody can see you.
Got it.
And so that fear of success and the accountability that comes with that, the thoughts go like, well, oh my God, what if I can't sustain it? Oh my God, what if I'm on that pedestal and I fall off? I'm going to fall so far. Oh my God, what if they find out I'm not really this? That imposter
Okay.
syndrome comes up as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things tied to that. And often procrastination is tied to that more often than it is to the fear of failure because we're looking for perfection.
That really makes sense. And we can get ourselves caught up with not even the success, but what could happen as a result of the success
Yes.
or the path towards it. Wow, that's fantastic. Oh, that's a big one. So fear of success as opposed to fear of failure is a big one. What are some other big action stoppers?
Um, I don't know enough. I'm
Uh,
not good enough. I
okay.
don't know how to do it perfectly. Um,
You're working on people's heads, aren't you? Yeah, with
that's
this work.
it's
You're not building a task list. You're not
no.
saying, you know, you're working on people's heads and what's stopping them.
That's where we start. It's a foundational piece. Do I help my people say to me, why aren't you a sales coach, Carol? And I said, all my clients grow in sales. How do you think they double and triple their income? They go, well, why don't you call yourself? I said, because I've worked with sales coaches. I don't do what they do.
Yeah,
My
wow.
I had a client over in London, hired me last May, June, right after COVID started. And we were in the initial talk, and there's no other word for it. She was pissed off. I've invested this much money in my da da da, and people should be paying me this much and all this kind of stuff. And I just went through, got her signed up. I got her signed up in my program, and I leaned in and I said, now I'm going to tell you something you probably don't want to hear. And she said, what? And I said, people don't pay you for how much money you've spent on yourself. They pay you.
That's
I,
brilliant.
I did. I said, they're going to pay you for speed and value and results. And I said, and you don't even know who you are. This is a
That's
thing.
awesome.
It's a foundational piece of work I do with every single client because there hasn't been a person that sat in front of me, Pam, whether they hired me or not, that truly knew who they were created to be.
Wow. Wow.
And I'll give you a couple of powerful examples. And so what she was really pissed off about basically is she had this 1 week jump starter program to a longer program, and she was trying to sell it for £100, and she was giving a 1 hour bonus included.
Okay.
5 weeks later, I happen to be in a training class and I get an email from her. And I love it because she calls me Dear Carol. I'm from the deep South, so right. So I love that. So she says, Dear Carol, OMG, I'm celebrating and dancing with you. I just sold that same jump starter program for £500 and no bonus. Thank you so much for your help.
Wow. Wow.
In fact,
That's fantastic. So it really is shifting people's whole concept of who they are and how they're showing up in the world. So one of the things that strikes me is the Queen of Reframe. So talk to me about that. Where did that come from? What does it mean? And I know you kind of gave me an example when we were talking the last time about what you're doing right now around Reframe.
absolutely. So, the short version of my story is that I'm an ex-collegiate professional tennis player who then spent almost 27 years very successfully in corporate America in sales, who then became the reluctant entrepreneur. I'm known as the reluctant entrepreneur.
Huh.
So through a series of events, I took an opportunity with a very small company, even though I love large corporate structure. And I was a weird salesperson, Pam, because I love structure and I'm a rule follower. Not true.
Oh, oh, yeah, really. Especially entrepreneurs. We're like
Right.
the opposite.
Exactly. And so I got hired on by this small company. They doubled my base salary, gave me a director title. I could just see the potential. And there I was 6 weeks into this job. This is in 2014. I was on vacation, but I was doing what I thought at the time was a good employee thing. I since have changed my ways, and I don't advocate this for my clients, but I was staying in touch with my boss, the CEO, while I was on vacation. He sent me an email, asked my opinion on something. I responded, and I waited, and I waited, and he usually responds right back. We went out, we enjoyed our vacation day. We came in after dinner and cocktails, and ding, there goes my phone. And it said, Carol Boston, you've got mail. And here's what the mail said. It said, Carol, comma, that's what you really think? And it had 5 question marks behind it. Then it said, don't come into this office on Monday when your vacation is over. You're done here. What? I just got
No
fired.
way.
Yeah, I got fired in an email for an opinion I was asked for.
That's stunning.
It was incredible. And it was just such a shock to me. But one of the reasons that I say I help my clients advocate for themselves, because I look back and I painfully did not advocate for myself in that situation.
Yeah. And you
I,
learn from it. As
yeah,
we those dots connect looking backwards, as
yes, right.
everything says. Yeah.
Well, Florida's like an at-will state. They can fire you for just about anything,
Yeah.
right? So I came
Wow.
back. I had an interview the very next day, and I was flown all over this country, sometimes 4 interviews deep. Cricket,
Jeez.
crickets. I depleted my entire 401k trying to get a
You
job.
were a reluctant entrepreneur.
Yes. And so faith is my foundation. So many, many, many months into this process, I was like, God, I really was yelling. And I'm like, you created me. You know I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur. You have got to help me find a good job.
The futile resistance.
Literally 2 weeks to the day from that prayer, out of the blue, I get an email from a woman that I met one time out of town at a conference. And Pam, she gifted me a $3,500 ticket to go to Los Angeles to study at Guerrilla Business School. Now, I tell people my God has a sense of humor because Guerrilla Business School was an entrepreneurial foundational school, right? So I figured, I don't know what I don't know, and what I'm doing isn't working, and off I go. And the very first thing I learned, it's actually going to be the title to my next book. It's You Can't Read the Label When You're Inside a Jar, and We're All in a Jar.
I love that.
And I actually tell my clients, but I can read your label and I can help you write a new label. And together we can throw an anchor into your future so you can let go of that story that's keeping you in the past.
I love that. That's
This,
the ultimate in reframe. In your case, you
yes,
were forced to reframe.
yes.
Oh my gosh. And yes, speaking of books, I'm just going back here and I'm going to read the title of your first book because right now this one's in pre-order and
Yes.
I don't want to get the title wrong. So I'm going to read it and then we'll put it in the banner. But Women Who Boss Up in Health, Wealth, and Wellness to Create the Lifestyle That They Love. So what's the cornerstone in that book that you bring out so that folks can kind of learn for themselves what they need to do?
These are 16 amazing women. I even include myself in there. Amazing women, great stories of being overcomers and how they have turned those ordeals. I mean, some amazingly difficult ordeals, and they've reframed it to turn it into good to serve the world.
Oh, cool.
Powerful stories, powerful stories. Um, our first 5-star review was from a man. This book is not just it's about women doing great things in the world, but the lessons and the value that it brings, the inspiration, the motivation, it's for anybody. Great book.
Wow, that's fantastic. There's the title there scrolling at the bottom, folks, so that you can pick that up. But that's amazing. I'm going to tell my friend Trish, who's actually been on this show as well, to pick that up. She is somebody who's taken, I don't know if you've seen that live, but she's taken a chance meeting on an airplane with a soldier and turned it into a 12-year-old now charity that's done amazing things for soldiers overseas. And it's that same sort of story. So I'm going to grab that and have it shipped to her for sure. Still in pre-order, but jump in there and grab that if you want some inspiring stories, folks. That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, and we'll give you the link and I will personally autograph it for you and ship it out to you.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, yeah, we will drop the link. I have a link that I'll drop into the comments for that.
Yes.
So we can make sure you get the advantage of that, guys.
And so wait. I want to go back to the Guerrilla Business School real quick.
Yeah.
So the second thing I learned was about empowering questions, and I was amazed. And I was determined to master them. And that's where I began to move forward. And if we had time for my whole story, when I look back, I've been in leadership a long time.
Yeah.
And everything happens for a reason. And I also now am very clear that oftentimes the path we fear the most is the one we're meant to be on. And so I began studying with the tops, Nirka, Michael Strasner, John Maxwell, Lisa Nichols, in leadership and empowering questions. And I will tell you, Pam, I have yet to meet another person outside of the person who taught me. She's the master at empowering questions, who really understand how to craft them. I was actually giving a talk to the Business Professionals Breakfast back in October. And there was a gentleman on the call. He'd been a business coach for 25 years, like 10 times longer than me, right? And his name was Fabio. He had the really curly dark hair and he was kind of the suave guy, right? So when I was giving my talk, And I asked who was willing to unmic themselves and give us their definition of an empowering question. I knew he was going to raise his hand.
And he did.
And he did. And he started talking, and apparently I went like this, and he went like this, and then I went like this, and he went like this. And everybody's apparently laughing at us. And he goes, I'm not getting it, huh, Carol? I go, yeah, no cigar, dude. Like, not even close. People really don't understand, but they are so powerful. Empowering questions. And I'm going to give your audience a couple of massively big nuggets.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I don't, that's the first time I heard the term. So I'm very curious.
I'm going to give you a couple of big nuggets. They're simple, but they're not necessarily easy. And this is, you're only going to get a brief introduction today.
Awesome, guys. Whether you're live or on replay, this is
yes.
the spot and the thing to listen to.
You need to listen to this. Empowering questions allow you to reframe from focusing on what isn't working. And isn't that where most people spend their time?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how people make mountains out of molehills. They focus on what's not working, and then they think about it, talk about it, tell their friends. Think about it, talk about it, tell their spouse. So it becomes this big thing. So empowering questions allow you to reframe from focusing on what isn't working, and they open you to opportunities you have never considered before. How does that work? Now, I told you that you can't read the label when you're inside a jar, and we're all in a jar. We all have opportunities sitting right outside of our jar that we can't see because they don't look like what we think they should look like. Our awareness has not been opened to these opportunities. So an empowering question allows you to ponder. They help you to get curious. Here's a critical thing. They help you take the emotion out of the conversation.
Okay.
They help you get other people on the same page as you easier and with less resistance. Now, the caveat is that when you put an empowering question out to God in the universe, and my clients know when we craft empowering questions for them around a particular challenge, it can be in a personal life, it can be in business, I help them craft them. They put them out to God in the universe 6 to 8 times a day out loud, and they do not sit around and try to figure out the answer. That's one of the caveats. You're saying, open my awareness. I'm willing to hear, see, or say. They create Oprah aha moments. Like, oh my God, I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the thing. They never, ever, ever start with the word why. That is so critical that I'll write that down. They never start with the word why. Why brings in defensiveness, which brings in the ego, which brings in emotions. And when emotions go up, intelligence goes down.
And
it's
total blocks any answer. Okay, got it.
Right?
Great tip.
So I want you to think about this, because it isn't just in business. So I don't have children, but my parents did this to me. Maybe you did this to your kids, or your parents did this to you. I came home, I'll never forget, in 7th grade, and I had 5 A's and a B on my report card. And I was so excited for my dad to come home from work, and I gave him my report card. Now, my dad is from the Deep South. And he looks at me and he says, now, Carol, why did you get a B? What do you think I did? I got defensive. I go, Dad, but I got 5 A's. He paused. He looked down his nose at me and goes, that's not what I asked you. Why did you get a B? What did I do? I defended myself again. I go, Dad, but David, that's my older brother, but David got 2 C's and a D. Here's what my dad said to me. And yes, young lady, we expect a lot more out of you. Now, how I heard that as a child, and it's impacted me for decades until I learned how to reframe it. How I heard that as a child is I had to be perfect to earn love. That impacted every relationship I was in. It impacted every area of my life until I learned that I chose to buy into that story, right? And I could reframe that. And I could reframe that to say, oh, my dad was telling me he knew I was so gifted I was going great places.
Yep.
And so that now it doesn't have that power over me.
It has a different power over you.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Right? Because that need to think that that thought that I had to be perfect to earn love caused me to overgive in relationships. I would over deliver, not get my needs met.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it was a pattern until I could reframe that and say, oh, wait a minute.
Wow.
That's not what that's about at all.
It was about, I want you to be everything you can be because I see the potential in you.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So with that, I want you folks to hang on. Whether you're watching live or on replay, I want you to hang on because, already we've got an amazing gold out of Carol, but she has made and is going to give us an offer here for this group that is astounding, and 3 people are going to get to take advantage of it. So hang on, and I'm going to drop all that information in here at the end of this, but we're getting about half an hour with Carol right now to a whole group of us. This is going to allow you to get an hour and a half with this person focused solely on you. And you heard her say she brings $10,000 worth of value to the table there. So we are going to drop that in as soon as we get to the end of this. And I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. But
may I share something with you?
Yes, please.
When I say it, one of the foundational pieces I work on is that, I help them step into who they were created to be. So it's actually biblical, right? God says, call things that aren't as though they are. You must believe and then you see. So I had a female family lawyer. She hired me. This is back in 2018. And I helped craft very customized, personalized, empowered statements for my clients. And they actually, at that time I had an office, they would stand up in front of me and say them out loud. And I could tell whether they owned them or not. Well, one of the ones I crafted for her was, I'm a powerful CEO of a fast growing law firm. Pam, she couldn't even spit the words out. She looked at me like I had lost my mind. She goes,
wow,
my business isn't growing. Why do you think I hired you? So when the stretch is too big, when the leap is too big, y'all might want to write this down. Number one, you want your goals to stretch you. If they don't scare you, they're not big enough. But if they're too big and with your limiting beliefs and doubts, I want you to put this little phrase in front of it that says, I give myself permission to consider. And that's where she started on that particular statement. I give myself permission to consider that I'm a powerful CEO of a fast growing law firm. And we got to work in my 6-month private one-on-one program. Now, I don't know if it was 2 months or 3 months, but she was already taller than me. And she came in with heels that day. So I'm looking up at her and she walks in and she sticks her chest out and she goes, I'm a powerful CEO of a fast growing law firm. And I'm like, yes.
Yes, we've done it. Oh, that's awesome.
I want you to go look at, this was only a foundational piece. And that, along with all the other work that we did, her testimonials on my website. And she said, I got more clients in 6 months of working with Carol than I had in 4 years of my practice.
Wow.
Part of that is owning what? She had a fast growing. We create as we speak, folks. What are you speaking? Not only out loud, but
true. What we speak is so true. I mean, I even saw this a little bit like the other day. I was just having a day where I was off and I just stopped midday, meditated, and everything I said after that, really it was, I give myself permission to consider, because I wasn't there yet, but I gave myself, and I love that language, those particular words. I was using different ones. And sure enough, it didn't take long. 15 minutes later, the day turned out to be a fantastic day. And I love that. Somebody had asked, are you able to give us an example of an empowering question? Just one that.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you more than that. I'm going to tell you the 4 words that they start with.
Oh, great.
An empowering question always starts with what, how, who, and sometimes where.
Okay.
An empowering statement is always specific and it's time bound.
Ah, okay.
So for example, instead of my dad saying, why did you get a B, which put me in a defensive mode, what if he had said this to me? Carol, what one thing, it's going to be specific, remember, what one thing could you do differently next semester, it's time bound, to improve upon that grade? Do you think we'd had a different conversation? And here's the thing. If I thought up the answer, I'm much more likely to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love that. And then the other thing I really liked about that example of an empowering question is then you said, don't try to answer it. Just throw it out there 5 or 6 times a day to just say it, even out loud. And that's like, absolutely, language is key. Say it out loud and then pay attention.
Yes.
And that's the thing that I often find hard for me. So I don't think I have a short attention span, but I might. But I do find that I'll like not pay attention to things around me. And then days later, something will click and I'll go, oh, I knew that 5 days ago. What was I doing?
Right.
Yeah, that is so cool.
So these will open you up to be curious.
Yeah.
And when it's really critical, here's another caveat. One of the caveats was what? It doesn't start with why ever. Another caveat is you're not to try to sit around and figure out the answer. And the third caveat is you are not to be attached to the outcome. Now, what does that mean?
I've heard that expression a lot.
I'm going to share you an easy example. Back in October of 2019, I knew that I was going to be speaking 3 times at the Tower Club Fort Lauderdale for 3 different organizations.
Okay.
Now, being a member of the Tower Club, I know they have a podium. And you can already tell by how much I move around. I'm not a stand behind your podium kind of girl. I'm going to be out with my audience. or they had this big fat handheld mic. Wasn't going to work for me. So I go over there to have a meeting with them. And they told me, and I said, well, what else is possible? That's the most empowering of all empowering questions, folks. Write it down.
What else is possible?
What else is possible? And don't try to figure it out. So and they go, well, Carol, that's what we've always done. And I said, I understand, but what else is possible? And they go, Carol, that's what we've been doing for 70 years. I said, I understand, but what else is possible? So we go through this 5 or 6 times, and she finally goes, oh, okay, Carol, I'll go ask. Now, I want you to really hear the outcome and pay attention, folks. A week later, I was in there testing the very first collar lavalier mic in the 70-year history. Now, here's what I want you to take away from this. I didn't go in there and say I had to have a headset mic.
Yeah.
I may not have gotten an answer at all. I wanted an answer that didn't make me stand behind a podium or carry a big fat mic.
You didn't care what it was.
I was not attached to how it showed up, as long as I got an answer.
Love it. So you were interested in the effect, like, but not exactly how they solved the problem. And that's actually a really good tip around delegation as well.
Yes.
That's something that is hard for entrepreneurs to learn as well, myself included, is, when you delegate something, you have in your mind, oh, this is how they'll do it. And that's not really the answer. What you need to delegate is, here's what we're after. How you do that is totally, you're probably going to come up with a better thing than I could have anyway. It's interesting how that kind of winds in.
It does, and it plays into the area of control.
Yeah.
And what I find is that people are so often holding on so tightly to what they think is theirs.
Yeah.
The universe isn't open. Excuse me, their hands aren't open to all that the universe has to give them.
Yeah.
And a thing that goes line in line with that, there's a great pastor, at least I think he's great. He's out of North Carolina. His name is Stephen Furtick. And I heard him recently talking about how his elbow was killing him. He goes, so he finally goes to the doctor. Doctor examines him and goes, it's golfer's elbow. It's a lot like tennis elbow. And Stephen said, I don't play those sports. The doctor says, what do you do? He says, I just lift a lot of weight. And the doctor leaned in and said, yes, and you'll lift a lot more weight if you'll loosen your grip.
Huh. Wow. That's a great statement. And I'm guilty of that. I know. Probably every entrepreneur is guilty of that at some point.
Absolutely.
And it's and every leader in corporate is probably guilty of that as they move up the ladder too. And one of the things, it's interesting, the what got you here won't get you there statement, which is, part of how we grow up in corporations is to be awesome at what we do and how we do it. And then all of a sudden we're put in leadership roles where that's not what counts anymore. What counts is developing and getting the team to do the things that need to be done to move things forward. So that's amazing. So one of the things you mentioned is what you're building right now. And I'm very curious for you to explain that to us, because I love the sound of it.
I am building my Limitless Leadership Academy. 7 steps to an unstoppable business.
Love it. For entrepreneurs, right?
I'm gonna say yes and no, and I'm gonna tell you why. I gave my first live talk in over a year, about 3 weeks ago, at the Tower Club of Fort Lauderdale. I had the privilege of speaking to the extraordinary women who lunch, and I just
love it.
There was a gentleman in the room as well, a friend of mine. And it was his birthday. So afterwards we sat and had a cocktail and talked. And he said, I love what you say about the jar. And he said, but I've read some of the testimonials from your clients. And he actually knows a couple of my past clients. And he said, but here's what you really do. He said, you take the cap off and unleash the magic.
Love that.
And he said that because one of the statements I made at that talk was, I believe, and I'll tell your whole audience, because I do believe this, I believe that every one of us was put here on earth with everything that we need inside of us. We just don't know how to ask the right questions to get them out. And that's a gift of mine. And what he said to me, which is why I'm telling you it can be either or, he said, you have the gift to help the everyday woman because you're in the business of me. Because I made a statement that I'm in the business of personal leadership.
I love
every one of my clients are getting these great results, and many of them double and triple their income, but they weren't recognizing it was because they were letting go of old things that weren't working and establishing new leadership principles. So as a coach, what I've done now is I go, I'll ask them, have you seen how much you've grown in that area? Have you seen that you no longer make emotional decisions, you make business decisions? So I'm pointing out the areas of leadership. Well, these areas of leadership impact every area of our life.
And you're valid consistent across everybody, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this program could be for business. It could be, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I want to be a more effective leader of the job that I have. And that's being me and being a mom.
That's where we need leaders for sure, because that is no easy chore.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And you made me think of a question and now it's gone out of my head. Darn it. I know what I wanted. It's more a statement than a question. The thing I love is the way you own your magic and talk about it. And that's one of the things I've been working on as well. But I think for all of our entrepreneurs, everybody out there, I want you to rewatch this and watch how Carol talks about what she does. It's not ego driven. It's not bragging. It's not any of those things that we worry about us looking like if we own what we do well. And I just think we've got a 35-minute brilliant example of how we can own our brilliance, our magic, our specialty, and talk about it in a beautiful way. So Carol, thank you for that, because not only have you given us a ton of nuggets, but I think that example you've just given to all of us is one I'm going to point to this video over and over for people, because it just really resonates with me. Because a lot of people have so much trouble around, I shouldn't charge for what I do and these kind of things. And yet you're saying, hey, this is what I do. This is a value and you're going to have these results. And you have provided, and listen up folks, an amazing offer. And I'm going to put the link in here in the comments, or actually in the banner underneath in a second. But why don't you tell us before I do that, what it is you've offered to the first 3 people who reach out to you?
What I did, and I started this about 3 weeks ago, and I only limited it to a certain number of people that I would do this for. It's a $750 value. That's what people have paid in the past. But remember 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, Pam, when Texas was inundated with ice and snow and people had.
Yes, they're still reeling from that. Yep.
Yep. And so I thought, what can I do to help people reframe from what isn't working? That's what I do, right? So I created an offer called my Snowmageddon offer. Snowmageddon. It's going to expire this Saturday night at midnight, because Saturday is the first day of spring. So Snowmageddon goes away. And for $97 only, you get 90 minutes with me in a clarity to cash call. I gave you a couple of examples of people who took me up on that call and what it did for them. I'm really, really good.
90 minutes of this person, 90 minutes focused on you. And I got to tell you, this is my second conversation with Carol. I love everything about my conversations with her. I've already walked away with a ton of notes as well. I promise I won't race you guys to be one of the 3, but I'm getting ready to run the banner right now at the bottom of this stream that's going to tell you what you need to do. So what you need to do is copy this link, https://calendly.com/Carol Boston. So copy that bad boy. And actually, I'll see if I can copy it in the comments here. I'll drop it in the comments for you as well. And the first 3 people who make that connection will have the opportunity to have 90 minutes with Carol for $97. Thank you so much. That means the world to me that you came to my group with that offer. So
absolutely. And make sure you put in there, I ask you 3 questions in there. There are 3 qualifying questions, and make sure you tell me you came from Pam, so that you might make sure you get in. Awesome. And I got to tell you, Pam, I was interviewed on a podcast on Monday. She took me up on the offer. You said you might take me up on the offer. And I have a call tomorrow with a lady who interviewed me last Monday. So it's really quite.
Yeah, I'll be calling you. I won't steal one of the 3 slots, but I'll be calling you, because everything you said, even if we are, no matter where we are in our process, that's what I love about this. Like, I could have talked to you when I walked out of corporate and started this business and had a whole different set of mindset issues. I could talk to you now when I've evolved somewhat since then, but I've still got a journey ahead of me. And what I hear from talking to you is acceleration.
Yes.
Acceleration. And I get antsy when I get bored. So acceleration. And it's just to make what we do and how we do it better for us and for the people we serve. So thank you so much. This was an amazing, amazing way to spend some time on Thursday.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's a blessing to be here.
Great. Folks, you have a great day. Actually hopping on a second time today, so we're going to be talking to Bob Gavreau a little later this afternoon, who happens to be having Gary Vee at one of his events coming up. So tune in this afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is, but I know it's going to be announced out there, and we'll talk to you then. But I can officially say this is the gold mine call here. If you want to move yourself forward, I hope you've watched this either live or on the replay. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll tag Carol with the question, and I'm sure she'll jump in and give us an answer. And then just hearing the millions of sayings I've now written down, just talking to you, it's astounding. You can't read the label from inside the jar, folks. Let's get ourselves outside that jar together. Take care.
Thank you.